Welcome to Deep Dives with Will and Rubes.
The show that is making accounting cool again.
I'm Will.
And I'm Rubes.
And this episode is Failures and Fuckups.
That's right, this is the episode where we dive back in time to the early days of Will's business journey to re-experience the pain and the joy that he went through, so that hopefully you and your customers can avoid some of the failures and the fuck-ups that he and we made along the way.
Absolutely. So this is our fourth. I think it's our fourth episode of Failures and Fuck-ups, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, the first two are pretty brutal.
Yeah, pretty raw, man. I had to go back in some deep dark memories to get through those ones.
That's
but
right.
It's nice to sort of be out here in the clearing now and get to talk about some more recent stuff.
So the third episode, though, that ended on a high. So you, when we last left off, you had received two huge opportunities that landed on your doorstep around the same time. You were able to speak with one of the largest accounting practices to an event they held to 180 business owners in Wellington, alongside Rod Jury. So you had heaps of work coming in from that, and you were the go-to cloud guy, in a very quickly growing market. And the second opportunity was around the New Zealand's largest plumbing cooperative coming to you saying, we have got 200 plus plumbers who want to get on cloud, a very unique suite of cloud apps, and we want you to be the person who does that for them. So enormous amount of opportunity coming your way, and you actually had to start to have some structure around the way you're delivering things. It was almost like you're running a real business.
That's right. Yeah. So the first few years, I think I was very much in love with the idea of being an entrepreneur, and in my mind, I was getting ready to buy the Malibu and getting to buy the truck and getting to buy all these things, but I didn't like the idea of actually doing the hard work. We see it in softball quite a lot. What people do is they throw the ball before they fielded it.
Right.
You go to catch the ball, and then they're already thinking about the throw, and that's where they misfield the ball.
Oh, yeah.
And I was sort of like that. I was already thinking about what I was going to do with all my money before I'd put the hard work in and actually done the mahi.
Yeah.
and made the money. So. Yeah, and I think another thing, just on that sort of tangent as well, is I think when I found in business, if your focus is to make money to make yourself look good to everyone, or if you want to make money for reasons that are quite selfish, you're going to find it really, really, really hard. And what I've discovered, and we're going to talk about this probably a lot more down the track in some later episodes, but when your focus comes off you and making you feel good and doing things for you and trying to show the world how great you are, and your focus becomes and your passion becomes serving other people, that is where things really start clipping into place.
Absolutely.
And that doesn't quite happen just here where we are in this part of the story.
No.
But that's really important, I suppose, is that's where we were the previous episodes. Is it was all about Will. It was all about doing things to make Will look good in front of everyone.
Totally. I mean, motivation, that's a very shallow motivation, and so when things are tough, it's very easy to go, oh, this is too hard.
That's right.
Yeah. But if you have a purpose that's bigger than you, whether that be serving a customer or a group of customers or a people or your employees or all those people, then when times are tough, you know why you're doing it.
Beautifully said, man. Absolutely.
Awesome. So when we last left off, you were travelling up and down to Auckland from time to time from Wellington. Your team was based in Wellington, is that right?
Yeah. So. The idea is because with this New Zealand plumbing merchant opportunity, I think the stats are like Auckland's like 9 times the size of the market of Wellington or something along those lines. It's a lot bigger.
Right.
So a lot of the opportunities I was getting were up in Auckland, so I was spending a bit of time travelling back and forth. And then it sort of became pretty clear to me that's where the opportunity is. I need to get out of Wellington. I need to get into Auckland. So. What I said, so actually I ended up, Caitlin, who was doing our finances, we ended up dating, so we got together, I think it was December 2012, so now we're talking about, we're in August 2013, so we've been together about 8 months.
Yep.
And I said to her, I was like, look, the opportunity's in Auckland, I've got to get up there. She was still at university studying at the time, and I said, look, I've got to go. And then she's like, great. So she's on Trade Me looking up places to rent. Sorry? The boyfriends, yeah.
Yeah, on Trade Me looking for there was no Tinder back then.
No Tinder.
So Trade Me, that was where we found boyfriends.
Actually, when Tinder launched, actually. Yeah, so she's looking for boyfriends, requirements, no debt.
In Wellington.
In Wellington, yeah. But no. So so she found a place for me to rent up in Auckland, up in Northcote Point, which is just on the north shore of Auckland. And so I contacted a really good friend of mine, and also he's actually my second cousin, Ben Richmond, who's actually now the country manager of Xero in the US. So I've known Ben for years since we were kids, and I contacted him and said, look, I'm looking at moving to Auckland. At the time he was working for Spark, and he said, look, because when I first moved up I had about 2 weeks delay between moving into that place, so I lived with Ben for a couple of weeks, and he was awesome at sort of introducing me to his friends, and he really made a big effort to show me around the city and take me to some cool spots, and it was really nice of him.
Auckland can be a bit of a rat race. I mean, I live there, and it can be a very overwhelming place when you're visiting to visit, but also especially if you've just moved there to live. Like, not only is it large and hard to get around, but the people there aren't as friendly as, I shouldn't say that, but the people there aren't as friendly as what you find in the rest of the country, I'll find, because there's very much a rat race. Yeah,
it's a whole different mentality up there, and it was very intimidating moving up to Auckland, I must admit, and having Ben up there and making me feel welcome was just tremendous, and I'm so grateful that he did that. And we would go for runs together, and he was saying, hey, look, I'm looking at moving on from Spark, I've got this opportunity with Westpac, I've got this opportunity with Xero, and I'm like, man, do Xero. Xero, it's happening, man.
That's where it's at.
And then he ended up actually working at getting into Xero when I was living there, and he was really good at so once he was only at Xero for a couple of months, and he went out on a limb and he said, hey, I've got you in to talk to all of the account managers. So this was the biggest opportunity I've had so far in my whole career in business. And he said, right, I've got all the account managers, you're coming in and you're presenting, I've got an hour booked out, and you can take them through what Link Solutions does, the sort of customers you're looking after, and how they can help you get in front of customers. So had it all good to go, and I was fresh at I was really fresh living in Auckland, and I was very, very nervous, and I had my nicely ironed shirt on, and I got up there, and so I was standing up on stage, and I remember tuning up, and they were all spread. It's probably about 50 seats, and there was about 12 or 13 of them, and they're all spread out, so they weren't all in one collective. It was in a big room, and I was like really nervous, and I could see them while we're trying to sort the technology out, getting it up on screen, the projector and all that, and I was
get on the Wi-Fi,
getting more and more nervous. The heart was starting to race, and I could see people playing on their phones, looking annoyed, like, who is this guy? I was just this little kid, and then what happened is it popped up on screen, and then Ben just walks up to me and puts this headset on me, and I'm like, oh, what's this? And he goes, Raywin's down in Christchurch, so you're going to dial in to her. Okay. So now I'm standing up on stage with this dorky headset on, with this antenna sticking up.
Right.
And by this stage, I'm starting to sweat from nervousness, because I look like a dick up on stage with this headset on. And then I'm going to start my presentation, because I'm presenting also down to Raywin down in Christchurch. It pops up with GoToMeeting, and the last person to log in was Nimish Patel, one of my staff. So I've got Nimish Patel up on screen, and I'm thinking they all think I'm Nimish Patel, and I start talking, and then Raywin's in my ear going, I can't hear you, hello. And then what happened is I just went into this panic attack. So I ended up having this full panic attack in front of everyone.
Well, this is 2013, and people forget technology, like video conferencing, running remote teams. That was still hard back then. GoToMeeting is still to this day a piece of shit, and it was even worse back then.
It was awful. Had a panic attack on stage in front of all these account managers at Xero. So I had to sit down, and they had to get me a glass of water.
So you did go to the sick bay. Did they take you to the sick bay?
No, I just sit down on the stage and have a glass of water, and then sort of collect my thoughts. And I ended up standing up and finishing the presentation.
Right.
But that was the first time I ever presented to everyone at Xero. I had a panic attack.
Wow.
So that was.
What office was that?
This was at the really good question. This was at the office that was up in Parnell, right at the top by that French bakery.
Yes, the original
Workflow Max, the old Workflow Max office.
That's right.
So I was up there, and that was embarrassing. That was one of the most embarrassing moments of my entire life.
I'm sure you've had worse. Surely.
Oh, yeah.
But no, that sounds really, really stressful.
Like when I was 12 years old, and Mum sent me to camp, and everyone was wearing board shorts, and I didn't know about that. And I was in Speedos.
This is a bit of an aside, but Will and I discovered we actually both had the same traumatic memory, and I went to school camp, and I had Speedos, and I was 1 year younger than everyone else, and everyone else had board shorts, and it's the most embarrassing moment of my life.
Yeah, well, you had the exact same experience, right?
Different camps, different places.
Yeah, that's right. But we both had the wearing the Speedos when all the older kids were in board shorts laughing at you.
So if you're a mum or a dad out there with an 11 or 12-year-old boy or 10-year-old boy, never, ever ever send them to school camp in Speedos.
Yeah, as soon as they hit intermediate, so once they've left primary school, they have to be in board shorts because that scars kids.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. Doesn't it, even if they want to wear Speedos, you say no. You're wearing board shorts.
Yeah, that's right. Anyway, so where were we?
So just great. Another awesome opportunity. Sounds like it slipped through your fingers.
That slipped through my fingers. That was So that didn't go so well. So not a lot of ended up with that opportunity was zero. But yeah, so we'd moved up and so I'd moved into this place in Northcote Point, and that's where things started going not so well. It turns out that New Zealand plumbing merchant contract that I had, those 200 leads that they talked about, they were not warm leads. They were cold leads. They were potential opportunities.
Wow, that's a pretty low bar. That's like so they didn't even know who you are or what you did.
No. So I was like sort of cold calling these people, and they're like, "Who are you?" And I'm like, "Oh, well, I thought you guys were ready to go. I thought these were all signed up." So then, what also had happened, because that I did that presentation in May, and by now we're sort of in September. I'm up in Auckland. And so the reason I moved up to Auckland, there were a hot 5 leads, real hot, ready to go leads, and that's what thought, there's hundreds of these, I need to get up there. Yeah. Turns out there was probably 5 hot leads. The rest of them were not hot leads. They were cold.
Wow.
And so I moved up, and then the idea was I was going to make sales, send the work back to Wellington, get it processed, and then I'll go back and do the trainings here in Auckland and see how things go.
Yeah, makes sense.
But the work dried up. All that work from that presentation I did, obviously that's not going to pay the bills for years. That dried up by the time I'd hit September. Yep. And it all dried up, so that all the plumbing merchant stuff had done. So I basically found myself up in Auckland with no work. I had this team that had no work down in Wellington. And I just remember another vivid memory. It's funny you have these like vivid memories of like really bad days. And what we did was I went on holiday and we went skiing in Mount Ruapehu. And so Caitlin and her dad and her brothers came up from Wellington, and I went down from Auckland to meet them. And I just remember like trying to enjoy this day snowboarding with the family, and I was on this chairlift just anxious as hell, just like going, I can't pay wages on Wednesday. And I knew I had this wage bill and I didn't have the money. And I just spent the entire weekend just completely anxious and stressed.
Must have felt like deja vu, because you're thinking, well, I've been here before. How did I get here again?
Exactly. I was like, I've done everything right this time. I've done everything right. I've run the business the right way, and it was just I hired too soon. The opportunities, people in business like to promise opportunities, but it's so often that those things fall through, and this is the first time I've had a big opportunity like that come at me, and it didn't end up being what they said it was. So that week I got back after that weekend away with Caitlin and her family. I had to let Mish and Sarah go, which was very, very hard. It was harder than the first time with my mates, because that first time we were all in fairyland. But this time, this was their livelihood. These people, totally. They'd taken a risk to come and work for me. That was really tough. That was really, really tough. And so anyway, I let them go, and it was just back to me and Raf. And Raf ended up actually moving to Auckland with me, so we're working in Auckland together. And then that's sort of where I found myself. It was when I let them go. It was that moment of. I always talk about my favourite quote is opportunity often comes disguised in the form of misfortune or temporary defeat. And it was very much that, because at the time there's this feeling of like misfortune are bad things. A misfortune is that that presentation I did that didn't go well. It's a misfortune. These sort of things, But temporary defeat is that feeling where you're like, right, everything's not working, everything's broken, and what you need to do at that stage is just everything from a blank canvas. Right, what is the situation? I've got this amount of debt, this is my business, I've got this branding, I've got these people, and then you need to strip everything apart and put it all back together again as best you can. And it's in those moments where these massive breakthroughs happen. And that's what I found is I was like, right, well, I let Sarah and Mish go. Very, very, very hard thing to do. And then from there, I sold the BMW.
Oh, really? you still had the BMW.
Still had the BMW. Had a warrant by that stage.
I was going to ask that. Yeah, did you have a warrant?
Had a warrant. Yeah. Went and bought a Toyota Corolla, and then what it did is it made me just go, right, I need to really just bring this back to just me, and then just focus on just paying this debt down. And I'm not going to try to grow this company too quickly, because I've just seen what happens. I tried to do it the wrong way, and it didn't work. I tried to do it the right way, and it didn't work. So I just needed to pay the debt down and then figure out what I'm going to do next.
Yeah.
And that was a massive turning point, I think, by going, right, well, my salary bill just reduced, and then that's where I started putting my prices right up, and then that's where things started really moving nicely.
Well, your overheads had dropped dramatically.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. So it was it was a really, really tough time, but that's where and then the next thing that happened, the next opportunity, sometimes these opportunities come from an idea. Sometimes these opportunities just come out of nowhere, man. They just out of nowhere, straight up. And then I get this message on LinkedIn from this random dude, Ruben Sweeney was his name.
Yeah.
He sent me a message, and he just goes, "Hey, Will, I heard you're doing some cool stuff in the cloud. You keen for a beer?" And I was like, well, I don't really know many people in Auckland, so yeah, sure. And then we met at Sales Street in Auckland.
That's right.
And I remember waiting in this bar, and then this dude just turns up on a unicycle.
He didn't know I did that, but yeah, you're jogging my memory now. Yeah,
turn up on a unicycle, and then just comes up and is like, "Hey, I'm Rubes." And that's how we met, brother.
How we met, yeah. I remember that like it was yesterday. I was in a pretty average job that I didn't really enjoy, doing the accounts. It was like an entry-level job out of university. Been there for, 3 or 4 years, doing accounts payable, accounts receivable, reporting, all that, bank reconciliation. I was using MYOB, which made me want to pull my fucking eyeballs out every day. And I knew this exciting stuff was happening with Xero, cloud-based stuff, add-ons to Xero. And I was like, I just got to get into it. I don't care how I get there, I just got to do it. And I was contemplating the idea of, helping people set up Xero, because I had the accounting skills, I had some technology skills. I was working for a Microsoft partner, so I kind of knew what the cloud was about. I was even, as well as my accounting duties there, I was also selling Office 365 into schools, so that kind of got me into that cloud buzz where I was like, hey, it's an easy sale, it was free, so I just had to go and meet schools and say, hey, all that Office suite of products, that's free, you should just use it for your students. And they were like, why? And I was like, well, it's always available at home and at school, so why not? And they were like, great. And I thought, well, I should just do that, but for accounting software. Yeah. And so I actually hit up the only cloud accountant that was around back then. His name was Justin Keane, and he was the OG cloud accountant. In fact, his business was called Cloud Accountants, and it was up in Ponsonby. And I hit him up, and I was like, well, I understand that you do cloud accounting. I want to do cloud accounting. Can I work for you? And he had to think about it. We did an interview, and he said, I would really like to hire you, but I don't have enough work for you right now, so I could only probably offer you a part-time job. And I was like, well, I've got rent of my own, I've got expenses of my own. It wasn't on a great wage as it was. I couldn't really afford to go part-time, but he said, but I do know this guy called Will McTavish who's doing pretty cool stuff. And I was like, great. I'll look him up, and he passed me on your details, and then I found you on LinkedIn, I think, we met up in Sales Street. I unicycled down from my office, which was the top of Nelson Street, top of town. Yeah, that's right. We I rocked on up. It was after work. I used to work long hours back then, so it was probably like 8 o'clock at night anyway. And met Will, and we just kicked it off, didn't we?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I talked Rubes through very, very briefly what I'd been through to get to where I am, and I sort of explained that I've just had to let my whole team go, but this is where I see the opportunity. I said the future's in the cloud, this is what's happening, and I just basically pitched him, this is what my vision is.
Yeah, we talked a lot about what we thought would happen in the near future around apps and add-ons, because that was still there was only 5 of them back then, there was only a handful of them, and they were getting better every week, because I've been doing my own research on that. So we kind of vibed around the growth of the industry and where cloud technology and accounting was heading.
And then Rubes just says to me, he goes, great, I'll quit my job tomorrow and come work for you. And I laughed and I go, mate, I can't afford to pay you. He goes, no, it's all right, you don't have to pay me, we'll figure it out. And I was like, oh yeah, and we laughed it off. And then the next morning, it was about 10 a.m, I get this text going, hey Will, great to meet you last night. I've just handed in my resignation. Looking forward to working with you in 3 weeks.
It was 4 weeks, I think.
Was it 4 weeks, was it? 4 weeks.
I had to do 4 weeks notice.
That's right,
Actually,
yeah.
It might have been 5, because I remember I went on holiday to Thailand.
You did, that's right.
I actually went home, after our meeting, I unicycled back up the hill, got back into the office, typed up my resignation then, and then put it on my boss's desk that night.
Wow.
And so that I knew that because I was going to be first in the office in the morning anyway, turned up and I knew where it was already sorted. I didn't have to do anything.
Far out, yeah. So that was, and then I suppose that's how we met, and then we've been working together
since then,
really. Yeah.
October 2013.
That's right.
Yeah. So I gave up a part-time job which would have been half a salary for no salary, but a big opportunity.
Yeah, that's right. And I've never met anyone since that's just been willing to take a risk like that. You know, I'm as you can see with what I've done, a massive risk taker. And then Rubes just jumps on board with even after I said that there's no money. He's like, I don't care. Let's go. Let's do it.
Totally.
See where it takes us.
What do you got to lose though, eh? Really?
That's right. Yeah.
You know, I don't remember that was what was going through my head. Yeah. I think when I started work with you, you were still in Northcote. Yeah. Yeah,
correct. That's right. Yeah. So you obviously saw out the your contract went on holiday, and then it was 7 a.m. Monday morning. A few weeks later, and then you just Rubes knocks on the door, open the door, and he's standing there at 7 a.m. in a perfectly ironed shirt. He goes, right, what are we doing today?
That's right. I was keen as I was living in Onehunga at the time, just around more central South Auckland ways. So I made the trip over to Northcote every day because I was still used to turning up in an office back then, and a lot of people were. You know, it was you turn up to a place of work in order to do work. Yeah, and I was so excited to get into implementing Xero for people, implementing Workflow Max, implementing all these cloud apps for people. Yeah. Yeah, and I suppose I just sat down and said, oh well, this is the projects I'm working on right now. These are the meetings I've got lined up this week, and just come for a ride along. And then Rubes just tagged along and just shadowed me for a few months basically, and learnt the tricks of the trade. And what we ended up deciding on is Rubes would find his own work. So I'd teach him what I knew. That's right. He'd find his own work, and then he'd trade under the Link Solutions brand, and then he would. So Link Solutions would invoice the customer. Yep. Which was Caitlin's job. Caitlin would invoice the customer, and then when the customer pays, we would pay 75% of that fee out to Ruben. So Ruben worked as I suppose like a franchisee. Franchisee of Link Solutions, and then. Basically that's how we got started. So Rubes just going out, finding his work, delivering the projects, and and then Raf was still on board. Raf started doing the same thing. So I had both Raf and Ruben going out and finding work and delivering the work, and that's where we started. Coming up with this idea of this sort of franchise model. So we had to sell our own work and deliver our own work, and then do a good enough job, obviously, that you get paid on time, hopefully, by your customers, and you had have enough projects going that you can kind of pay your rent. So it was quite risky, but it was low risk to the brand and the company. So it worked out pretty well for a little bit, didn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And so what ended up happening is once we got this underway, Ruben was doing his work, Raf was doing his work, and it was Raf was making money, Ruben was making money. I was doing the same, so I ended up contracting back as well, and it was going well. And then I went and approached.
Yes.
Yeah. So we went to the. Said, hey, look, I've got this little model working. It's working really well. I want to expand this throughout all of New Zealand, and I also want to look at pushing into Australia. So what they did is they said, well, it's great. Well, if you want any advice from us, the first thing we need to do is you need to give us 6% of your company.
Oh, okay.
Sure.
Oh, and you said?
And I said, right on. Right. And they said, but that's not it. We also need you to pay us $1,500 a month.
Okay.
And I was like, I've got a bit of debt at the moment. And they said, but look, you can't do this without us. And I was like, right, well, if it means being part let's do it.
I was also very excited. It's a very well-known brand for incubation and that sort of thing.
Absolutely. So it was looking really good. We're about to launch this franchise. We'll take this franchise model to New Zealand and to Australia and see where that takes us. And we're we had in the incubation program. I pitched to all of the directors or whoever they are. And if I get passionate about something and I believe in it, and you put me on stage, I can usually convince a few people of a few things. And they were just like, yeah, this guy's the real deal, And they fast tracked me through their program, hooked me up with a mentor, and we started putting a bit of a strategy together about how we're going to go and really crush it in New Zealand and then beyond. And so I think that's probably a pretty good time to wrap up.
Yeah, that sounds like a huge opportunity. Let's see what happens in the next episode.
That's right, yeah. So, we'll see you guys next month.
Yes.
We'll let you know how we went about franchising the Link Solutions consulting model.